Hi. Yesterday, well actually 2 days ago, we worked on a zigzag bracelet that we put a magnetic clasp on instead of these adorable little seed beaded toggle clasps, because they actually take almost as long to make as the bracelet does. So in order not to make the other video too long and boring, we just did the bracelet today. We're going to be learning how to make this toggle and the loop, of course, that goes over it. I think they're very pretty. They're great for people that have metal allergies, and I think they're very petite and delicate looking and go very well with these bracelets. Today, instead of working with what I normally work with, is size 11 seed beads and 4mm bicones. This one is actually size 15 seed beads and 4mm bicones. We're going to be working with size 6 seed beads so that you can see it better. It will probably be as ugly as sin. And since I don't have, but you will be able to learn easier on these, and they would be a good size 6 is a good one to practice on, because once you get down to the 11s, it is a little bit tedious. So I made these. I don't have a bracelet to put this type of clasp on and this side, so I just made these two little ends to use as a faux bracelet end, and that's what we'll be putting the toggle on. So we start by, of course, threading our needle, and I probably have an arm's length worth, and we start by putting on a stop bead, which I always suggest for beginners, so your beads don't fall off. Just put on a bead that's a little bit different than the beads that you're using. You're coming out the top, go back through the bottom, and holding the 6-inch tail that you've left there, pull your thread through, and just let your little stop bead hang there. White is probably not the most appropriate color to see on camera, but these beads you'll be able to see. Okay, now these particular toggles for this petite bracelet are made with 10 seed beads to start with, and the clasp, the loop I mean, is 21, and they fit over there, over the toggle quite nicely without any fuss, and they're very secure. So let's put on our 10 seed beads, size 6 or 11, whatever you choose to work with. If you're more used to bead weaving, you can go ahead and use the smallest one you want to. 1, 2, I don't like that one seed bead, it's very cockeyed. Okay, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and slide them down. We have our 10 beads, and this is called a peyote stitch. If you're already familiar with it, fine. If not, today's the day to learn. I kind of hold this over the top of my hand and support it with my thumb, and then get this little tail end and stick it between my fingers to kind of keep it straight. Doesn't always work. We start by, we're coming out of the top of those 10 beads, we start by picking up a seed bead, and we're skipping the bead that we just came out of the top, and we go down through the one right underneath it. And pull it kind of tight, and we're going to repeat that all the way down. Pick up another seed bead. We're coming out this seed bead, skipping the next seed bead, and going down through the next. Pull your thread. Pick up another seed bead. We're coming out of this seed bead. We're going to skip one seed bead, and we're going to go down through the very next one. Being careful not to go through more than one. Pull your thread tight. As long as you have your thread taut, everything is going to be fine. These things tend to want to get a little weird looking, but when you get to the bottom, you can straighten it out. We're coming out the bottom of this bead. I'm going to pick up another bead, skip one bead, and go down through the next. It's a little tricky trying to stay in camera and hold these beads. Okay, coming out of this bead here, I'm picking up another bead, skipping one bead, and going down through the next. I have a feeling that I put one too many beads on here, and I'll tell you in a second. When you get to the bottom, if you pull both sides of the thread taut and press down on them, what you should have is beads sitting, and I put one too many beads on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You will see when you pull both the threads on the bottom away from each other that it looks like you have, and you actually do have, 2 rows at this point of beads. These are called up beads. They're sticking out on this side. We put on 10, but what we have here is 2 rows of 5. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on that side. So I am pulling off my stop bead and the extra bead that I put on there. I suggest you leave your stop bead on there. Every once in a while, an extra bead will jump on there on me. And then I start over, but I don't want to start over here. Okay, so we're turning it over now. There is one bead up at the top, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sticking out either way on each side. So I'm going to start on the right, picking up one bead and going back down through the first up bead, we call it, on the right side. So I like working with it in my hand. I don't know if it's harder or easier for you to see, but I have a bead on my thread. I'm going down through the first up bead and pulling it taut. Pick up another bead. We're not skipping beads anymore. We're just looking for the one that's sticking out. So I'm coming out of this bead, and this is the first sticky outie or up bead or whatever we want to call it. Going down through there, and there'll be a total of 5 times that will do that. So that's number 2, I believe. Picking up another bead. Here's my next bead sticking out as 3. Picking up another bead. Looking for my next sticky outie, up bead. Going down through that is 4. Pulling my thread taut. Picking up another bead and going through the bottom bead that is sticking out to the right. Then we're going to flip the whole thing over again, and you'll see you have one bead coming up at this point, on this end anyway. One bead coming out of the middle, that's where your thread is coming out, And again, on each side you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beads sticking out to the right and 5 sticking out to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to do that one more time. Actually, you are going to do that a few more times, and I'll show you where you're going to stop. I'm picking up one bead, going down through the first one that's sticking out, called the up bead. 1, twice, second one sticking out, third one sticking out, fourth one sticking out. Get my tail out of the way. Wrapped around my fingers. And fifth one sticking out. And then you're going to flip it over again so that it's now the top, and you're going to do the same thing. You have 5 beads sticking out on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to pick up a bead and go down through each one of those 5 beads, flip it over, and do it again, and you'll repeat it until it is wide enough. Well, first let me show you this. Wide enough to fold in half and have the out beads in the opposite place on each side. Now here's where I ended, so I'll flip it up that way. Can you see my out beads? On this side, they start from the second row. The top bead, the top row, it's kind of an inny bead. The second row is out, the third is in, the fourth is out. On the other side, the right side, this one is in. On the left side, it's out. And the reason they need to be opposite each other is when we get to this point, we're going to what's called zip it up. If you sit them next to each other, we'll be going through, we'll take our needle without adding any beads, and we'll go down through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 beads, which is what I'm going to do in a minute. But I suggest that you pause your video and get to that point. This is probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 9 or 10 rows wide, but you'll know know that you can fold it in half. It's got to be wide enough to fold in half, and it has to have every other bead be the opposite, in the opposite place that the other side is. This one, the top one sticking out, and it's an innie on the right. The second row, it's a outie on the right and an innie on the left. So pause, come back when you have, I don't know, I guess that's about, this one is about 1 inch wide. Okay, so at this point, which on my timer is 1440, if you want to mark that down, is where we're going to start zipping it up. I'm taking my piece, I'm folding it in half, I'm taking my needle, and my out bead, my first out bead, is on the left side. So I'm going through my left side, then I'm going through my first out bead on the right side, and now I'm going to count. That was 1, 2, and I'm not pulling it real tight. Left side 3, right side 4, left side is the 5th, right side is the 6th, oops, got a little tangled here, so I'm going to untangle it. Left side is the 7th. We're just doing the out beads. Right side is the 8th. It's even on the right, odd on the left, I think. That's 8. Then we're doing the 9 on the left and the 10 on the right. Except I dropped it on number 10. Now I didn't pull them tight, I just pulled them so that I could see what I was doing. At this point, I'll take both of my threads and together, just so they're laying together in my hand, and I will pull this threading, this beading thread, so I can pull them all the way tight. Now it's a tube and you can't see where that seam is. There is no seam. So what I will do is I will take my tail, pull that a little taut and this one taut, and I'll tie a knot in those two. Because the bottom, at this point you probably still had your stop bead on. You needed to pull that off first. So I'm tying a double knot here. I think I told you before that I'm anal, so I'll do 3. And then I'm just going to kind of weave back up. You don't even need to. I mean, if you've got 3 knots there, what you can do is just, this is good for a beaded bead also. Not this size. I think this is too big, and at this size is really kind of ugly. But these sizes are adorable for little beaded beads. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a crystal on each side of that. So I'm going to go back up through the center of that with my needle. I'm going to grab, I'm using 8mm where normally I use 4mm bicones. So I'm going to pick up an 8mm bicone and a seed bead. I'm using an 11/0 seed bead just because I don't want it to look as ugly as I think it's going to look. Now that should nestle right down. Let's get that tail out of the way. Nestle right down into that tube. And what we do now is we skip over that seed bead. Just let that seed bead go up. And we put our needle back down through our bicone, through the center of that tube, and come out the other end. So pull it, and it sits there nice and tight. At this point, I'm picking up the other bicone, which is 8mm. Normally I use a 4 because normally I use size 11 or 15 seed beads. Pick up another seed bead, skip over that seed bead and go back down through the bicone, through the center of the beaded tube that we just made, out, try to get out the other bicone, which sometimes is a little tricky, but especially if you're blind and old like I am. Come on. There we go. Now actually it came out the bicone and the seed bead, but that's okay. And I like my thread to be double when I'm using it to put a clasp on. So I'm just going to pull that down a little bit. Can you see how that is very similar, only it's huge to this. This is the object for the bracelet. And this is the monster we made because we used big beads so we could see it better. I suppose that could be used for a really big beaded bracelet. Okay. So just for safety's sake, I'm going to go back through. I'm going to pull that thread out again. I'm going to go back through. I'm going to go underneath that seed bead, back through the bicone, back through the cone, the bicone, the cone, and the other bicone on the other side, if I can get in there. I did pull my thread kind of tight. Just one more time, go in there please. It really is not that hard. When you're trying to show somebody something, things usually do go wrong. Okay. There, right through both bicones and the tube. It did not go through the seed bead, so I'm going to go back through the seed bead, down through the bicone, and try to come out the center of that tube somewhere. If I can't get it exactly in the center, then I will just weave myself into the center. It wants to come out, but it's not. Okay, it's not coming out exactly in the center. Get you out of the way for now. I have too many pieces to stuff here. It's pretty close to the center. Now we're going to, actually, that really does look pretty close to the center. Yep. We're going to pick up, I don't know, these are kind of big. When I did it with the 11-O's, I picked up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beads, but I think 4 of these should be enough. This is like the little handle that's going to sit. And at this point you should have your thread doubled. I don't think I have enough to have it doubled. So I'll just have to go through it a couple more times. Pick up the end of my bracelet, which is really, I mean, look at this tiny little bracelet. Huge monstrosity. But like I said, it's just for demonstration. On these bracelets, they're 3 cubes wide. So I'm going down through the center cube, through, well, you've got crystals on yours, through 1, pull it as tight as you can, Now this is going to be difficult because these beads are so big, but like I said, this is for the purposes of demonstrating how to make those cute little toggles. Okay, I'm pulling that really tight, close to the cube beads, and holding it, and I'm going to make a half hitch knot, and I think I already showed you how to do that. You're going to go under the thread that's between the two cube beads. Why I'm having such a hard time today, I don't know. Okay, get under that thread. Make sure my clasp is snug up against forgot about my loop. You're going through that thread, you're going to make a loop, and you're going to put your needle through the loop. There's my loop. I'm pulling on the toggle thread to make sure it's tight. Put my needle through the loop. Go back up through that center cube, back up through those beads. Now, like I said, this will be a little sloppy because these beads are way too big. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 beads, and I'll go through the other side of the bead that I came out of on the tube that we just made. To snug it up, it's coming out over here. I'm going to go back in through this side. Oops. It's coming out over here. And I'm going to go back in through the other side. Pull it nice and snug. And I'm going to go back down through all those beads again. I just want to clip this off here because it really is getting in my way. Going to go back through all these beads, which is your little handle on the toggle. And then I would go down to at least the second bar and do another half hitch knot. By putting my needle underneath a thread bridge. Pull on that thread, make sure that toggle is snug up against the bracelet. Go through the loop, pull, and go back up through that whole mess one more time to make sure it's secure. Now I've gotten through the bead bars. Now I'm going back up through the seed beads, and I'm going to go around that one middle bead that we came out of 2 times is good, then back down again. 2 times is more than good. Now you're seeing the thread on this because A, the thread is white, B, these beads are huge. So we're going back down these 4 through 1 cube, do another half hitch knot, my tail is in my way because this really isn't a bracelet, it's just a little piece. Okay, you get over there, make a half hitch knot, and then weave through a couple of beads to make sure that you're not cutting the excess thread at the place that you have a knot. So you can go down a couple of beads, up a couple of beads, after you've done 1 or 2 half hitch knots. I can't believe how huge that toggle is. And it should be nice and secure on your bracelet, and it definitely should not look that big. They're really very pretty when they're little. Now the other side, I already have threaded. Oops. A needle threaded, and I have my, let's get rid of some of this stuff. Thread coming out of the center, just like here, the center bead. And I'm going to cut off this little end here, because it's just a piece, it's going to get in my way. And you're going to put 21 plus, remember I said, if you're using 10 beads for your, I don't want to use that for an example because it's so ugly. If you're using 10 beads for your toggle, you're going to use 21 for your loop, and then 2 more so that you have a little stem to add it to your bracelet. So I'm going to pick up 21. Hopefully I have enough thread. I'm going to work that way. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I'm not going to have enough thread. I did not figure it out right. Normally I'm working with size 11 seed beads, and these things are huge. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 21 plus 2 more. I said 10, so you double it and add 1 is 21. And 2 more. I already have an extra one on there. I'm going to bring it down into a circle. Scoot those up. You're just going to go back down through the 2 beads, through the center bead in your bracelet, and do the same thing. You're going to make a half hitch knot. And before you do, test to see if that toggle is going to go through. And since I haven't pulled tight, it's really hard to tell. Yep, that toggle fits through there. Goes right through. Okay, so we've got our loop. We're making a half hitch knot. And then you would go, make sure you hold your thread tight before making your knot. And even when you're in the center of making your knot, get under my thread bridge here, and I'm going to grab a hold of the other end of the thread, pull it tight. There's my loop, and make my knot. And actually, this is not a bracelet, so I'm not going to worry about it. My thread is laying over the seed bead, which I did not want it to do, but this is getting cut apart. It's not getting used. 2 half hitch knots, not a bad idea. Back under the thread, make a loop, pull it tight, then go back up through the center bead. And doubling your thread is a really good idea. Otherwise, you just have to go through it 3 or 4 times to make sure that it's not going to break. We don't want it to break. These beads are so huge. I thought it was a really good idea to use them so that you could follow me, and I have a feeling, because I haven't been paying attention to the camera, because I'm struggling, that I may have gone out of camera. So I will check and edit it. Right now I'm going back down through those last two beads, and actually a couple more beads, as if this were the bracelet. I'm going to pull tight again because I didn't get that loop quite that tight. This is your second chance to do that. I'm going to make a half hitch knot with the little bit of thread that I have, pulling it tight. Not much thread, so I'm backing through the loop instead of going through it forward, because I'll never get it through forward. And then if this were real, I'd weave up and down a couple of times before I cut the thread off. Now I hope this is not as awful as it felt like I was doing. I mean, I really don't have a hard time when I'm making these. Just the bigger one was good for practice and good for you to be able to see, hopefully. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm planning on doing some holiday earrings really soon, probably next weekend. So stay tuned, make sure you subscribe, and have a very blessed day.